talk a little bit about where I was born. I was born in Keokuk, Iowa in 1973, a little small town. Never been there again, but you know, a town of maybe 5,000 or 10,000 people, right in the heartland of America. Typical upbringing, I would say, you know, mom and dad, a couple brothers, Little League baseball, paper route, video games, you know, the typical bully. You know, I had to deal with the bullies growing up, and I think that's helped me in my pool career a little bit. So yeah, pretty typical upbringing, I would say. Started playing pool in, I believe, when I was 18. I was almost 18 years old. My brother one day said, let's go down to this Boyce's Billiards in Hesperia, California. And at the time I was a golfer, very avid golfer, high school golfer. So I tried pool. I actually thought it was kind of boring and kind of easy, kind of lame, and I wasn't really captured by it. And then one day, you know, I saw a good player draw the ball, and I was kind of fascinated right off the bat. And here I am 25 years later, been lucky to make it my profession for almost 3 decades. I started competing really the first day I played pool. I mean, I wanted to be, you know, one of the better players in the pool room. They put me in the tournament as a D player. I couldn't beat anybody. You know, I went 2 and out every Friday for a couple months, and it kind of pissed me off. I was ready to get a little bit better and learn more. And, you know, one thing led to another where I tried to become the best player in the pool room, maybe the best player in the town, the state, the country, and the world eventually. That was kind of my thought process. If I can be one of the best players in the country, surely I can beat Ted over here that just knocked me out of the 8-ball tournament. So, my first big tournament experience, I went to the bicycle club, I believe, in '94 and watched the pros. I was mesmerized. I could not believe that a human being could play pool the way those guys played. I truly found it impossible to play pool like that. I just couldn't fathom it. As far as me competing in a tournament, I believe my first pro event was in 2000, the U.S. Open straight pool in New York City. I drew Mike Siegel first round, and I would, you know, Mike's my buddy, and I have a ton of respect. He's one of my idols, but I remember him breaking his cue against me in that match, and I'll never forget it. It was in front of about 1,000 spectators, and Paul Sorvino and Jerry Orbach, and you know, everybody was in tuxedos and evening dresses, and it was quite an experience for a rookie like me to play one of my idols and then breaking his cue in front of everybody. So I'll never forget that. People ask me all the time, you know, how did I get this good? And I think the foundation for becoming a good player is going on the road. You're going to play different games, different tables, different people. You're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to play guys that are unpleasant, people who don't miss much, tables you don't like. And it really rounds you out as a player. Myself, my first couple road trips were just small ones with a friend. And then we'd go over to San Francisco or Modesto or Sacramento up in the Bay Area, down in LA. And then I got to where I felt like I was maybe good enough to leave the state. And went over to Phoenix a couple times. And my first official trip was with a kid. He said, let's go up to Detroit. I know everybody. And I'll remember we drive all the way cross country in his little Honda CRX. And we walk in the door, and I know who Richie Richardson is. At the time, he was the best player in Michigan by far. Richie Richardson walked right up to me and asked me to play. And I look at my buddy Curtis, who told me he knows everybody. And I was kind of testing him. I said, Curtis, who's this guy? And he goes, oh, I don't know. You want to play him? So that was my first road trip, and that guy wasn't too good of a steerman, you know, if you didn't know Richie. But I learned a lot that trip, made some money, escaped death a few times. It was quite an experience. And I look back, what changed me from a recreational player, made me want to take it serious. I've always been kind of competitive. You know, I played golf, I played baseball, I was doing my best to compete. I'm not a big, strong guy, so I have to compete more with determination and grit than being gifted physically and being big and strong and being able to throw a 100-mile fastball. So I think I ran towards competition, and I wanted to test myself and see where I stood on the food chain playing pool. And the best way to do that is to go to the tournaments where the pros are at and learn, ask questions, watch videos, read books, take my lumps, and if it all works out in the end, you know, maybe I could survive. You know, people ask me what's harder, tournaments or gambling, and I kind of appreciate both. There's nothing more stressful than winning a tournament, and there's really nothing more stressful than playing a giant money match against a great player. I probably, if I was going to say I was going to win or play great, I'd rather do it in a tournament format because you're really tested. You're in front of crowds, cameras, your peers. Money games, it can be one-on-one in the back corner, and it's not quite as stressful, but still, it tests you for sure. When I prepare for tournaments, I do it by trying to find a table and conditions and the friction level of the table that's similar to what I'm going to. So if I'm going to a tournament, I know it'll be new cloth, polished balls, and if we're playing 10 ball, I might practice some 10 ball, one straight pull, one pocket, what have you. If it's a bar table tournament, I might tinker around on the bar table. It's really not rocket science. I'm just trying to match up with the environment that I'm going to. I'm going to try to emulate that back at the home pool room. I've made my bet I'm going to land it. I'm a pool player. So what I'm going to do at 45 years old, become a painter? No. So what motivates me is to succeed, keep testing myself, provide for my loved ones and myself. And, it's funny, a guy that I kind of been watching on YouTube now is a guy named Jordan Peterson. He's a clinical psychologist. And when I listen to him, it really explains a lot about myself and my career that I kind of think I knew already over the last 20 years. And, I've learned a lot of things from him that I think have helped me in my life. And it's basically talking about having a direction in life, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, my direction is I'm a pool player, so I'm going to do things that facilitate that. I'm going to try not to break my arm riding my dirt bike, or try not to, get in a bar fight and go to jail so I piss off a sponsor. Everything I do is with the thought of I'm a pool player and I'm going to try to treat my body and my life as such. And it's kept me on a path that has kept me out of trouble in a lot of ways. Being a professional pool player is one of the toughest things you can do. There's a lot of failure. We're not paid a lot of money like golfers, so you have to be a good money manager. You have to manage yourself. You have to be your own agent, publicist, bodyguard, travel agent, cook, driver, sports psychologist, and you have to be your own businessman. I mean, I feel that pool is a sport, but anybody can play good. But if you don't treat others with respect and treat yourself with respect, after a while, you'll just be a good player that nobody wants to be within 10 feet of. So it's a process to make it in the pool world. You have to treat people like you want to be treated, and I've tried my best. I've failed at times, but I've tried my best with that. I've been very lucky to make it a long time playing pool, and a lot of that is by being a good money manager. I used to have a gambling problem in my early 20s, and I quit cold turkey. And I realized quickly that you have to manage your money and put your savings away when you win, because you're going to have weeks or months or years where things don't go right. So I have kind of a saver's mentality instead of an investor mentality, and been able to save my money, and then it's kept me in a position to be able to do something I'm passionate about and that I love. The biggest moment in my career, there's 3 or 4 that really jump off the page. Now, obviously, most would say, well, it's that U.S. Open win, but there were some things that happened prior to that if they would have went a little different, I wouldn't be here today talking to you. So I'm not really going to expound on that, but there were some situations in my life that, looking back, were very instrumental in me making it in the world, making it in pool, and being here today to talk about it. My most devastating moment in my career, that's probably the day I decided to go from one type of cue to another. I played with one cue for 15 years, played the best pool of my life, and then I got the bright idea to change cues completely, and that's something that I really regret. It really set me back for a few years. But as far as losses, I've had some big losses, and I've really taken my beatings a few times and had to put my tail between my legs, and it really humbled me, and I lost to players I don't think I'm supposed to lose to, but it's also made me a better player and a stronger player. Anybody that says they've never lost playing pool, you haven't left town much. Okay. People ask me, am I a hustler or a competitor, a player? Well, I'm not a hustler any more than Phil Mickelson hustles golf. I guess in the early part of my career, I did some things that would be considered hustling, but really, once the money's bet, and once it's crunch time, all that hustling and all that stuff you see in the movies isn't worth 2 cents. You've got to be able to get up there and run out and play great and beat a guy on his home equipment on a table he's very used to, with the whole pool room betting against you. So So all the tricks that you think you can muster up aren't going to help you when it's crunch time. You have to be able to really run out under the pressure. So, you know, I would say through and through I'm more of a competitor, and I relied on skill and determination more than deceit and trickery. When I went on the road and I was looking for a game, I wasn't looking to hustle, I was looking to learn, and I was looking to test myself. So I would go to a pool room, and sure, I could have picked on the guys who couldn't play and tried to make a few bucks, but I was trying to become a better player, and I always gravitated towards the best players in the room just because I was fascinated by what they knew, how great they played, and maybe some of that would rub off on me if I played them and asked them questions and watched them. So I was the guy that kind of got more obsessed with the good players, playing my best, and seeing what I could really do with the game, instead of trying to be the big fish in the little pond. That just doesn't get you anywhere. But the one thing that made me survive 25 years on the road is, I mean, you can look at me, I'm obviously not a big, strong guy, and it was to be respectful and polite to people, because you just don't know who will knock your teeth right down your throat if you treat them wrong. So if you treat people polite and the way that you'd want to be treated, you can make it on the road playing pool. And I've been fortunate that I haven't really been harmed in 25 years or had too many things happen to me that, you know, that could have got me injured. And that was really by just trying to be nice. Be nice. Fixes a lot of problems. You know, a lot of times my hobbies kind of take up my time playing pool, and I have hobbies like anybody, and they're good and bad. They kind of let you get away from the game and de-stress. One of my main hobbies throughout my whole life was golf. I've kind of laid off on that lately, but I was a golfer from the time I was 12 until I was about 40. I'm an avid motorcyclist, dirt bike, street bike, dual sports. All you bike nuts out there, you know, you can feel me on that. I'm a firearms enthusiast. I love guns, and I'm gonna admit it. I get a little grief over it, but I like my guns. Camping, outdoors, fishing. I'm kind of a precious metals nut. You know, gold and silver, cryptocurrencies. I'm really into that. So I have a lot of things that interest me, and I think that's helped me. It's helped me relate to people. When I go to a pool room, I'm able to talk about my hobbies, and somebody might say, well, he's a stuck-up pool pro, and after 10 minutes they go, well, he's just like me. He likes motorcycles, and he's an okay guy. So it's helped me make a lot of friendships and bonds with people over the years, just doing other things outside of the pool room. I think it's good for you. The one thing I probably struggled with the most of my career is the mental side of the game and being composed under pressure. And what I try to do when I'm not feeling good and I'm not feeling confident is to go back to the drawing board and practice, because practice will create confidence, and then confidence leads to good play. You can't just fake your way with confidence, you know. But when I go back to the home pool room and I'm running my straight pool or whatever I'm doing, and I'm developing that confidence, that gives me kind of an inner peace when I go compete against the best players. It's an awful feeling to play terrible when you know you're better than that, and you're dogging it and you're missing balls. And believe me, us pros, we feel the nerves. People say to me, you look relaxed out there. I'm not. I'm a high-strung guy. I get nervous real easy. I get anxious real easy, and tournament stress is enough for it. Just about melts my brain. So it's something I have to deal with a lot. I get asked all the time, you know, if I've been beat, and it cracks me up. Of course I've been beat. I've been beat a lot playing pool. And one of the memories I have where I took a really good beating playing pool, and again, I like to tell the stories where I win in the end, so I kind of win in the end, but I did take a beating. This was in 1990, I think, 8 over in Phoenix, Arizona. So I drive over to Phoenix, Arizona. I'm driving like a 1985 Honda Accord, no cell phone, $100 pool cue, and I might have had $1,200 in the whole world. I'll never forget it. I go to play at Hobbies Billiards, and there's a guy there named Jeff Thomas. Nice guy, very good player, but I kind of fancied myself to beat him. I thought I could beat him. So I go in and I play him, and we play a race to 9 for like 300. And I'll never forget it. This guy played the most unbelievable set of pool on me. He beats me like 9-1. It was all I could do to win a game. He played as good as, at the time, Roger Griffiths. I mean, he played tour caliber speed, drilled me 9-1. I play him one more set, just kind of out of pride, and he beats me like 9-1 again. Runs like an 8-pack, literally, ran 8 racks. I'll never forget it. Put my tail between my legs, I'm walking out the door, and he gets on the microphone, and he looks at me and he goes, John Schmidt, go home. Kind of makes fun of me. So I've just lost half of my life savings. I'm a long ways from home, and I just realized I'm not as good as I think I am. And I go out to my car, and I go to sleep, and I spend the night in the parking lot. And as you can imagine, that wasn't much fun. So I wake up the next day, and I drive around for a minute, and I get lost, and I'm gonna try to hit the freeway and just go home with my last $600. I pull up and I see the pool room. I go, oh, there's Colby's again. So something kind of grabbed hold of me, and I decided, you know what, I'm not leaving town like this. And I go back in there, and I'm terrified of the guy. I'm thinking I have no chance to beat him. And I walk in, I say, Jeff, come on, I'll play you some $300 sets. And believe me, he'll remember this. I beat this guy so unmercifully. I beat him like 11-3, 11-3, 11-3, 11-3, or something to that effect. But it really surprised him, and it surprised me, and it taught me something, that even when you think you have no chance and you're not good enough, if you stick in there and you keep trying and you believe in yourself, things can turn. Now, if I wouldn't have went back the second day and played him, I'm not sure I would have made it as a pro player, because I took a beating and I went home and I took my lumps. I said, no, let's get back on the horse and try it again. I want to see if I can do better. And it's amazing at how much different he played the next day. He didn't even look. I think he said, I played the best pull of my life on this guy yesterday, and he's still not scared. He still wants more. And that really influenced my career, and it made me realize, even when something is going really wrong and I'm not doing well, things can turn, things can change, and to stick in there. So that's something that I'll never forget. I've had bigger losses and lost more money, but that was something I really remember 20-something years later. Then I think it's helped me get through the rough patches in my career. So if you're struggling with your game and things aren't going right, hang in there. Maybe it'll turn around. I'm going to tell a story about Ronnie Wiseman. I like Ronnie Wiseman and I respect him. So this isn't me belittling Ronnie Wiseman. I would tell this story if he was sitting right here. But it's a thing that I think shaped my career. 98 or 99 in Sacramento hard times. I remember Ronnie Wiseman. You know, he's in the prime of his career, playing great, winning tournaments. Was a monster player. And he beat my buddy Bobby Hunter, beat him like 11-5, 11-5 for 1,000 a set. Played very impressive. I asked him for the last two. He said no. So long story short, he says, come on, I'll play you 8 ahead for 1,000. Now at the time, I had $4,000 in the whole world. And to a pool player, that's a lot of money. And he had about 50 grand on him. So anyway, we play 8 ahead for 1,000. He plays amazing, and he beats me in like 10 minutes. And I'll never forget how good he played. And like an idiot, I said, Ronnie, I'll play you 10 ahead for 3,000. And I think he was shocked. And he said, the more the merrier, flip it. So now about 3 hours into this set, and anybody's played in a headset can appreciate this, he's 6 more games winner. So he's 6 more games winner, and a 10 ahead set is not looking good for me. I'm going to go dead busted. And I walk around the corner, and I remember Jose Perica saying to me, he goes, come on kid, hang in there. He goes, Ronnie thinks he's stealing. And I even asked to bet against you. And he goes, are you kidding? I'm not giving up any of this action. I'm robbing this idiot. And I probably was an idiot. Well, so that really inspired me. So I come back to the table, I turn to the crowd, and I say, I'm going to beat this guy. And I really believed it. I probably had no chance, but I really believed it. So you know where this is going. So about 10 hours later, we're even, and I somehow, another 10 hours later, or what seemed like an eternity, I won the set 10 ahead. And I was only 2 games winner on Ronnie after like a 20-hour session. But it was a giant victory for me. It was just another battle for him. Didn't mean anything to him, but it meant the world to me that I didn't go home dead broke. And Ronnie was a gentleman. He told me, good shooting kid. And he showed a lot of heart. And it really shaped me and made me think, man, maybe I can compete on the pro level, because Ronnie was a bona fide tour pro. So that's one match I'll never forget, because at the time, I remember Bobby Hunter in the hotel room the next day. He's standing there, you know, he's combing his hair. And he looks at me and he goes, I don't know what makes you tick, man. You're crazy. Like, you're going to bet your life savings against a guy who's just playing perfect on you. He's like, you're a loose cannon, man. And I just remember how Bob thought that was so funny. Because Bob the whole time is going, no, keep that 3,000. You don't need to play this set. So anyway, I've been through some battles. Okay, friends, semi-pros, great players, pros out there. There's something I really want to talk to you about. For 20 years, I've been traveling around, spending tons of money going to tournaments, and it's killing me. It's killing all of us. Something has got to change. One of the biggest drawbacks is the travel expenses. I mean, you got your plane flight $500, the hotel room $500, the eating out, and the entry fee. Now, it's a tough enough proposition for a guy like me to say, well, I want to play against Jason Shaw, Shane Van Boning, and Alex Pegulayan. Those guys are great, great players, the best in the world. And it takes a lot of nerve to even want to compete against them. But it really takes a lot of nerve to pay for a flight and a hotel room and all the expenses that go with it. Can you imagine if there was a way that we could get rid of the travel costs and I could play my match from my home pool room and send my score sheet in on a kiosk or use the internet instead of a plane? Wouldn't that be revolutionary? Luckily, the answer has finally arrived with Behind the Rock Tour. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, but I just want to talk to you about why I'm so passionate about this and why I believe in this so much. Luckily, Debbie Wilfinger, my longtime friend who's been around pool a long time and dealt with the travel expenses, has figured out a way around that. I've seen a lot of things come and go over 20 years. A lot of it I agree with it, a lot of it I don't agree with. But the one thing I know for sure that the pros would like is a way to get rid of the travel costs, and this is it. Okay, you're going to play your matches from your home pool room. It's the biggest no-brainer I've ever seen, and I'm ready to get started with it. Let me give you an example. You go to the U.S. Open, great tournament of course, but you go to the U.S. Open 9-ball, 200 players show up, and they're going to spend about $2,000 a person. That's $400,000 in travel costs. Can you imagine if a tournament and all those great players could compete against each other and you get rid of the $400,000 in travel costs? I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? I'm ready to do that. And luckily, somebody has came along with a program that's going to let us players do that, save that travel cost. Every time we go to a tournament, we lose money as a group. 64 guys show up, spend $1,000 apiece. You spend 60,000. A tournament that's not acceptable. It's not going to work as a group. We're all going broke slowly. We have got to find a way to compete against each other and get rid of the travel cost. And the answer has finally arrived. Behind the Rock Tour. I'm really excited to bring this to the billiard public. I think it's a great idea.